Hello, welcome to Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better, to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Barnes.
And I'm Mark Langley.
First question is from Jakara. She says, "Hi Mark, I brought my mare back into work after 3 years off due to injury. I've ridden her already and she's fine, but forgot how heavy she is in the reins. So I've decided to start on the ground. I'm having trouble with her responding to the flag. No matter how big or soft I bang or shake it, she does not respond to it at all when asking something, as just following the field towards me or asking her to get out of my space when she pushes in. She doesn't look frozen. It's almost like she has been desensitized to it. Is there a way to get her a bit more responsive to the flag instead of just ignoring it?"
Yeah, Jakara, that's interesting because it's, I get a lot of horses at clinics which have been desensitised or they've become quite used to everything happening around them, and that old saying that my horse is bomb-proof. There's a lot horses can kind of cope with because some are shut down, some just go, I'm not fazed by all this stuff and I'm okay with it. And it's hard to motivate them to search, and that's why people go to different sort of ideas to try and get horses, motivated. But you don't have to use a flag. I use it because I can sort of create a little bit of awareness in a horse and then offer them a nice calm pathway through my guidance, whether that be through the rein or my suggestions through indirect feel or whatever. But when you're using the flag, the thing that I do is just be a bit random and don't direct the flag at the horse or anything like that, which you already know through my dealings with you at previous clinics with your other horse. But I might be just walking along. So I like with horses like that become quite, they build up their walls or not even build up their walls. They just become quite resilient in the learning environment that. There's not a lot that stimulates them. Sometimes I just take them out of the arena or something, and I'll be leading them, and I might walk fast. I might just go, I'm in a hurry. I've got to go over here, and hang on a minute. I think I dropped something over here. I might have to go over there, and I kind of treat it a bit like that, and I'll get the horse really thinking about what I'm doing, and I'll be a little bit spontaneous and a little bit random. Now, not random in a scary way, you're not directing yourself at your horse and bullying it and pushing it around in circles in a random way. You're just being very, busy about what you're doing, and sometimes it wakes those horses up to say, oh, hang on a minute, this is a bit different. They're not like they, because I think what people do when they're around horses, they get very patterned and very, they do things in a certain way, and when they use a flag, they do it in a certain way, and the horse goes, oh yeah, I know all this. So you've just got to, so sometimes that's what I do. When I lead out, I get your horse leading up, so it's kind of trotting up behind you, and you're walking somewhere, and you're waking it up, you're stimulating it, and then you might turn around and go, oh, actually, I might ask you to do a back up, and then a step forward, and then the back up, and then, oh, actually, I've got to go somewhere else and do this. And while your horse is sort of awake and eyes are open, you just do some little transitions in there, and then you go back to what you were doing and a few more transitions. And that's another way I'd sort of, deal with a horse like that, that has been, maybe overhandled, over desensitised to things and stimulants. But the other thing I do while I'm working is I would be a little random with the flag, as I'd be like walking along and I just have it quietly, the horse, and then I just go pop the flag over there, and the horse go, oh, what was that? And I go, I don't know, well, I'll just keep walking. And I might just pop the flag over there, and the horse goes, what was that? And I go, I don't know. And just keep walking, and then next time you pick the flag up in the air, the horse will go, oh, there's that thing that popped over there. I might just be a bit alert, and I might just pay attention. I did a clinic in South Australia, and a lady who hosted Harry Whitney, and I've heard someone try to explain to me when Ross Jacobs explained this to her, but another lady explained it to me after she many years ago hosted Harry Whitney, and he was talking about exploding boxes, and the way she explained it to me, and it's kind of the same thing as if you were walking through an environment and you were aware that there was exploding boxes that might explode every now and again, well, when the one explodes, you're going to walk through there aware, but when one explodes, you're not going to freak out. But the poor horse behind you that's leading with you, if it's not aware that there's exploding boxes, it's going to be walking along going, oh, yeah, and then the box explodes, it's going to freak out. But it may be less aware when it was behind you leading and just kind of zoned out, but then when the box explodes, it freaks out. But if it was aware that there was exploding boxes around, it'd walk through that environment more aware, but when they explode, it'd handle it better. And I think that's how we're setting our horses up to be normal horses in an environment, because that's how they live in their normal life, especially when they're going to new places and things like that. When something comes up, they're aware of it and they make a decision to sort of suit themselves and the herd. So it's important that they keep that awareness. So yeah, anyway, try a few things like that, and you might just get her, open again, and then when she is open, then just do a few little transitions. And what I say for those horses is do a little bit, very well. Don't do a lot. A lot of things you just do one little thing and make sure she's quite good at it, quite soft, quite light, and then leave her. Just don't hammer her with a lot of transitions until she goes dull again.
So Mark, would you say that it's okay or it's fine to use the flag with every horse out there, or are there some horses that actually you shouldn't use the flag for? For example, maybe they have turned off to it and it doesn't work with them.
If they've turned off to it, I think it's important, because sometimes if they've turned off to a flag, they've turned off to a lot of other things. So the flag is one thing. So generally horses that have turned off to a flag, as Jakara was saying, she says her horse is heavy in the reins, so the horse is heavy in the reins, it's turned off to the reins as well. So they generally, if they're really shutting out one thing, there's a lot of other things they're shutting out and brace to.
Right.
So you have to get something that wakes them up and gets them alert. And that's why people go to positive reinforcement, so the horse is kind of searching because it gets a reward for it or something that it likes.
Yeah.
In that sort of sense now, I'm using the flag it's more to create an awareness than to to dominate the horse. It's not to dominate the horse, it's just and when the horses are aware, then the reins it'll be aware of the reins as well.
Yes.
You don't have to use the flag, like you can just use the poppers, like the leather poppers on your lead rope. And like some people who wear leather chaps, all they have to do is go crack on their chaps and it makes a loud noise, and all of a sudden, the horse is alert and going, oh, what was that?
Yes.
It's just to get them out of that sort of headspace where they're very dull.
Next question is from Olive. Olive has a yearling filly who can put her ears back at her son when she's getting fed, but we won't answer that question right now. She says that particular filly, though, will vigorously paw the ground at feeding time until they're fed. Besides digging a hole in the field, she would like to discourage the behaviour. The older filly also paws when tied.
Yeah, so pawing is a horse's thoughts that are somewhere else, but its body is left, with the lead rope or something like that. So pawing is just horses paw when they're not centred. So if I want to be over there, but I'm stuck to this chair, I'm going to wriggle and wriggle and wriggle until I'm off the chair. So it's just a form of wriggling. I just call it a form of wriggling. So the horse, so the ones that are tied up that are pawing, they're just saying I'm here and I want to be over there, and I would usually use my feet to go over there, but I'm just going to use my feet to just paw the ground because I know it's futile pulling on my head because I'm tied up. So it's just them doing that. So with horses that paw that are tied up, there's different things you can do. The most important thing is I always go back to leading. and teach horses to be centred with the lead rope. So basically, when you pick up a feel of a rope, the horse brings its thoughts into that place there. And if you put the rope over here, the horse brings its thoughts over there. And you teach them to follow a feel very well. And then when they follow a feel very well, then that rope becomes part of the education. So when they're tied up, they're actually quiet because that rope is there quiet. So that's part of it. And the other part of it is, for some horses that struggle, is graded exposure. So you basically, you don't tie them up long enough to start pawing. You might be a little bit close to them, and you teach them to be more centred in all their situations. So when when you're standing with them, they're not thinking over there. They're centred in this environment, and you take them away from their horse, their friends, and you distract them. So they distract them from their friends or where they want to be. So they're more centred either with you, and then eventually they learn that it's okay to be away from those horses, and they're not thinking towards those horses. And you can do that in tying up as well. So you take them away for a little bit, get them centred, tie them for a few minutes, and then take them back and show them that it feels okay to be here with your mind over here. And you just teach them to have everywhere they go, their mind is with them. Their mind's not stuck in the past of where they want to be. Like separation anxiety. So basically, you make that a habit. When you pick up a lead, their thoughts come to the lead. When you're away from a little bit away from the other horses, it starts at a little bit, as I say, because you're grading that exposure away from the other horses. They're centred with you, and then they become more centred and more calm about that. And then you can say, well, actually, now you don't want to be with the other horses, and you're okay here. I'm going to tie you up here, and I'm just going to walk over there a few metres. And the horse goes, oh, I'm okay because the rope's here, and I centre with the rope as well. Because you've taught me how to lead very well, so I'll centre with that. But you don't go very far away because you can come back. So once the horse is centred with you, the rope itself, well, not itself completely, because you've helped it into that place, and it's still not on its own, but you've helped it be away from the other horses. Then all you have to do is you work on grading the exposure with you walking away from the horse and coming back, because it's already disconnected from the other horses. I hope I don't get too lost on that, but yeah, so you've worked on getting the horse more present with you, and then you work on tying it up. Was there a bit about the pawing at feed time too, wasn't there? Just with the feed time thing, very important that what I've just explained will help at feed time, and also for everybody with feed time, like horses that have more access to food constantly instead of like feed time, special feed times, become more comfortable around feed time and aren't as stressed. And it's important in bringing up young horses that there's not a lot of bullying and challenging around buckets of feed in their upbringing, and they've got good access to food, and that usually helps with a lot of that.
Okay, the next question is from Tracy. She says, do you have any advice on introducing a new horse to a herd for the first time? She's looking at possibly getting a new horse. It's going to go into a herd of 2 other geldings. One is quite dominant and will aggressively chase off his pasture mate around food, occasionally even without provocation. The other is senior and far more submissive. She just doesn't want to upset, that balance that's going on. And she isn't able to separate them. She doesn't have the opportunity to do that, so they will just be presumably put all together from day one.
Yeah, that's a hard one, and the hardest thing is I don't like giving people advice and then their horse goes and gets hurt. But sometimes the safest ways can be the most dangerous ways, as in, sometimes, like you said, you don't have access to separating your horses, and sometimes a common thing is people separate their horses and that horse is on the fence with the others, so they can start to sort of get to know it a little bit over a fence. But then there's been altercations over a fence where the horses have got hurt because there's been a challenge over a fence. So if there's going to be a challenge with two horses, they're going to get possibly hurt because they're fighting each other. I have put horses in a big herd and monitored it, but there's space. There has to be space. You can't have them in a small area where they're going to get boxed up too much. So just recently I took one of our young horses down to Victoria because someone had purchased her, and she came from a herd here that she was very well established in, and got thrown in the deep end a little bit, and we watched, and it was, what was unfolding in front of us wasn't very nice. But the worst horse was the bottom of the pecking order, and he just hammered her. He chased her like he galloped at her, but she was quick enough to duck and dive out of the way because she had room. The more dominant horses, they were only sort of threatening her when she was close to their space or close to interfering in their space. So she saw that and said, oh, well, yeah, she could deflect around them pretty easy. But most of the horses were pretty good, except the one that's not very nice. And the one that wasn't very nice wasn't really up the pecking order anyway. But a few days later, the person that was kind of looking after her said, oh, she was grooming with the one that had run her down. So she actually became friends with him, but she actually started hanging around the stronger ones in the herd. So where I'm going with that is, though you've got to grit your teeth, it takes a little while for things to settle in. It just doesn't happen on the first day. And you watch it on the first day and you go, this is a nightmare, it's never going to work. And sometimes it doesn't. I'm not saying it will. There are herds that don't suit some horses. But you've got to let it play out, and they've got to have a little bit of room to be safe enough that they're not going to get boxed up, as I said, in a small area. And I tend to put them with a herd and let those dynamics work out. Now, if it's the wrong herd, most definitely, then within a day or two or three or four, you might find that she'll just be over there and not really in that herd. That if it's a big enough area, she'll just she or he will just stay away from that herd because they won't be allowed in. So. So you got to look at it like that. The other thing is you can, if you want to, but you have no access. So I guess you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You have no access to separate them. So the other thing is you separate members of the herd, but you're going to stress the herd by doing that as well. The herd dynamics, but sometimes people still have to separate herds for certain things. But where you put out of context some of the herd with her but without some of the other herd, or one or two members of the herd, or just one member of the herd, and see how she gets along when they're on their own. But I think I always tend to just let it ride a little bit, as a natural thing.
Okay, thanks Mark. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
You can learn more from Mark online through his online training videos. Just search Mark Langley Horsemanship. There's over 380 training videos which everyone has access to with a 7-day free trial. If you like what you see, it's just $15 a month from there. That's help where you need it.